Good morning, and welcome to the 2023 Pac-12 Football Media Day. And thank you all for being here today. We're excited to be hosting this event in Las Vegas, home of our football championship game for the past 2 years, and longtime host of our men's and women's basketball tournaments. We are joined today by 11 of our highly accomplished head football coaches, along with the defensive coordinator for Colorado, and 24 of our incredible student athletes. And I know I speak for the entire football community in saying that our thoughts are with Coach Prime following his surgery earlier this week. We wish him a speedy and full recovery. Each one of our coaches and student athletes possesses great talent and leadership on and off the field. And I know that you and our fans across the country will enjoy the opportunity that today presents to get to know them and their personal stories better. I think it's fair to say that this is the most highly anticipated Pac-12 Football Media Day in recent memory. First and foremost, because of the strength of our football programs and the opportunity that our teams have to compete for CFP invitations and the national championship this season. At the same time, I'm guessing a few of our media friends might have interest in other topics related to the Pac-12 and might even have a question or two on those topics. So I'll keep my remarks relatively brief, and then I'll take questions on the issues other than football before welcoming the chair of our athletic directors group, Mark Harlan of Utah, and Merton, the Pac-12's Executive Associate Commissioner of Football, to help us refocus on the football season ahead. Speaking of football, the Pac-12 is the strongest it has been in 2 decades. This is a direct result of the investments made by our schools and their athletic departments, particularly over the past few years. We have nationally recognized head coaches, both returning and new to the conference, with track records of great success. We have an incredibly strong returning class of football student athletes, highlighted by the most elite group of quarterbacks in any conference in the country and highly touted incoming recruits. Our conference boasts elite teams capable of competing for the CFP selection and national championship, and great depth up and down our league. Last season was our best in recent memory. I'll share a few data points. Last year, the Pac-12 had 5 teams finish with 10 or more wins for only the second time in Pac-12 history. We were the only conference to achieve this milestone in 2022, and the first Power 5 conference to do so since 2019. We had 6 schools finish in both the final AP Top 25 and the final CFP rankings, marking the first time the Pac-12 has achieved this milestone since 2014. We had 5 of the top 11 teams in scoring offense, and we had 8 quarterbacks throw for 3,000 yards last season, tied for the most in college football history. And 6 of those 8 quarterbacks returned this season, and all 6 of them are here with us today, and you're going to get to meet them. We have the reigning Heisman Trophy winner returning to a Pac-12 school for the first time since 2005, and have several of the most highly touted challengers for the Heisman. 25 of the 51 players selected all Pac-12 first and second team last year returned to the Pac-12 this year, the highest percentage among the Power 5. Among these returning players are both the Pac-12's first and second team quarterbacks, 3 of the 5 first and second team wide receivers, 6 of the 8 first and second team defensive linemen, and 3 of the top 5 returning running backs in rushing yards. We have 5 schools in the top 25 in recruiting rankings, the most schools in the top 25 for the Pac-12 since 2017. We have 4 schools in the top 10 of the transfer portal rankings, and we have 6 5-star recruits, the most since 2017, including keeping 5 of the 6 5-star recruits at home on the West Coast. You will recall that keeping the best West Coast high school players in our footprint and at our schools was part of the goals we set a few years back. It's worth noting that our success last season translated into more viewership, with our ABC, ESPN, ESPN2, and Fox Pac-12 football ratings all up between 19 and 21% year over year. And our Pac-12 football championship game recorded the highest viewership numbers in its history, along with a sellout crowd. So we have a lot of reasons to feel optimistic about the upcoming season of Pac-12 football. The imminent expansion of the college football playoffs from 4 to 12 teams is a great reminder of what the ultimate objective is for any conference or football program: to qualify for the CFP and win a national championship. The Pac-12 will be in a great position to reap the benefits of this exciting new format. I'm pleased that during the lunch hour on this stage, we will have a special Q&A on the topic of the college football playoffs with Bill Hancock, Executive Director of the CFP, Rick George, Athletic Director at Colorado, who just left the CFP Selection Committee, and Rob Mullins, Athletic Director at the University of Oregon and a former chair of the CFP Selection Committee. I'm looking forward to hearing Bill and Rick and Rob talk about the expanded CFP. While today is about football, I'd be remiss if I did not acknowledge the Pac-12's continued dominance in other sports. Our universities are focused on broad-based sports programming, and our Pac-12 schools won 9 NCAA titles this past season, marking the 18th consecutive year that the Pac-12 has won or tied for the most NCAA titles. In addition, the Directors' Cup returned to its rightful home in the Pac-12. After taking a 2-year post-COVID detour to another campus, the Cup returned this year to Stanford. In fact, Stanford has won the Directors' Cup 26 times in the 29 seasons that the Cup has been awarded. Before I finish my remarks, let me provide you with an update on our media rights negotiation and our approach to considering expansion. I know there's been never any speculation about the timing of our media deals, but in the end, we're on track to announce our deals at about the same time as everyone would have anticipated and predicted before the news of conference realignment. The Pac-12 Board of Directors has met regularly throughout the process and has been united in their commitment to one another and to the Pac-12. And this commitment and patience will be rewarded with an announcement in the near future. Getting the right deal has always been more important to our board and to the conference than getting the expeditious one. Regarding potential expansion, while we have already done the due diligence on expansion candidates many months ago and significantly narrowed our focus to a handful of schools, our sequence remains unchanged. First, we will conclude our media rights deals. Then our schools will sign our grant of rights, which has already been negotiated, and only then will we decide on potential expansion. In a moment, I'll invite Mark Harlan and Merton to join me on stage, specifically for questions focused on Pac-12 football. But first, I'll be happy to take and answer your questions related to topics other than football. Jim, who has our first question?
All right, please raise your hand and we'll bring a mic over for those who have questions. Brandon there in the middle.
Brandon Marcello, 24/7 Sports. George, when it comes to this, the storyline with the media rights deals, I was wondering, is there a breakdown in communication? And I ask that because you've had presidents and other administrators since February saying, the deal's coming soon, wait, it's going to be a couple of weeks. What's been the holdup there, and has there been a breakdown in communication between the conference office and its membership?
Several dozen board meetings in the last year. We constantly update our board. I think they're enthusiastic like I am about the media deal. But I will tell you what we've seen is that the longer we wait for the media deal, the better our options get. And I think our board realizes that. And there's an underlying shift in the media market that's happening, and we're long-term taking advantage of that. But short-term, it may have provided some hiccups.
Questions? come up here in the front.
Kenneth Berry, Touchdowns and Tangents. In regards to, obviously, the Big 12, they talked about last year, and even this year, they're open for business. In terms of them potentially poaching schools, is that still a major concern, or has it kind of been, nipped in the bud privately?
It's not a concern. Our schools are committed to each other and to the Pac-12. We'll get our media rights deal done. We'll announce the deal. I think the realignment that's going on in college athletics will come to an end for this cycle. And then the truth is we've got bigger fish to fry. There are incredible opportunities and also challenges in front of college athletics. And I need to be able to work with all of my colleagues in Division I and particularly in the A5, and we'll do that. And we'll move past, kind of all the bitter squabbling of the last year, and we'll work together to make college athletics better.
In the back, middle.
Kirk Kinney from the San Diego Union Tribune. For months and months, San Diego State carried a belief that a Pac-12 invitation was imminent. Did the Pac-12 lead San Diego State to believe that an invite was forthcoming, or do you think they made assumptions that they shouldn't have?
Well, I'm not going to disclose my conversations with any potential expansion candidates, but I will tell you that, generally speaking, we've never given anyone an indication that anything would be different than the sequence that I just mentioned, which is get our media rights deal done, get our grant of rights signed, and then we'll consider expansion.
Ross, Sarah, right behind you.
George, there's been this narrative now for several months that your league is about to collapse and go away. Why do you think that is?
Well, I sit in the board meetings and I see the commitment that all of our schools have to each other, and I also kind of know where the sources of that is coming from. So I discount that because I know the truth.
James.
James Creppier from the Oregonian. George, I think 2 years ago I asked you about potential expansion candidates and that AAU had been a requisite. The lead candidates that have been well reported over the last year are not AAU members. Is the door open with expansion to not just those who've been reported, but what does the implications of that mean to other schools in the geographic region who've had great athletic success but are not AAU members?
I think we talked 2 years ago. We also talked last year about all of the criteria that we put in when we consider expansion candidates, and we rate all of the potential expansion candidates against all of those criteria. Academic progress, research 2 standing, AAU is a part of that and one component, but not the only component.
Stuart in the middle.
Following up on Ross's question, George, you mentioned the patience of the presidents and chancellors, but obviously the fans also have had to wait a year now, wondering, is our league going to survive, or are our schools going to be able to make enough money? Some of the presidents have come out and made comments, but this is your first time speaking about it since December. Why have you chosen not to address this publicly sooner, to give some sort of reassurance?
Yeah, I could have spent all of the last year getting into a he said on every single rumor that's been passed about our conference. We decided to take the high road. We decided to focus on the future of the conference. That's why we haven't engaged. And what I will tell you is that when you think about the effect that might have on our schools of not being in the public every day, talking and defending ourselves, for me, the real concern was, is it going to affect our recruiting, right? Are we going to lose potential student athletes because of that, because of some uncertainty? And I will tell you that our recruiting has never been stronger, and it kind of reinforced the decision to not engage in that and to stay with the high road.
We'll go here in the third row, second seat in.
Andy Amashta, Las Vegas Review-Journal. George, you guys have Media Day here. You have the championship game here in Las Vegas. Why has this been a priority market for you guys? And do you see this partnership continuing forward with the city of Las Vegas?
Yeah, as you know, I'm from Las Vegas. I love Las Vegas. But it's been great for our fans and for our student athletes. The experience of playing at Allegiant Stadium, the experience for our men's and women's basketball teams of coming and playing in Vegas, and their fans having so many opportunities to take advantage of everything that Las Vegas offers is very special. It's also a neutral site. Historically, we've not always been a neutral site for our championships. I think we're going to be bringing more stuff to Vegas.
We'll go with the back left here.
Richard Johnson, Sports Illustrated, in the back left, over here, George. Hi. Is it at all frustrating for you personally or professionally that despite what you're trying to push, the football, the quarterbacks, that you're still dealing with questions about media rights timeline and stuff like that in the midst of all that?
I don't consider it frustrating. It's a reinforcement for me of what dedicated and passionate fans we have and how much people care about college athletics. And I get it. And at the same time, I don't want the opportunity to be missed today to talk about football. We're not announcing a media deal on purpose today because I want the focus to be on football.
Third row here in the middle.
Hey, George, Steve Croner from the San Francisco Chronicle. Kind of more of a big picture question, not just for the Pac-12. There's still the talk about NIL and will there be some kind of standard set. What do you see happening for the Pac-12 and for the NCAA as a whole over the next year or two?
Yeah, I really think there are two kind of macro issues in front of us. One is name, image, and likeness, and the other is this constant assault that we see of folks trying to mischaracterize our student athletes as employees. Two separate things, but they're somewhat tied together. I would tell you that the bill that came out from Senator Booker and some of his Senate colleagues a couple days ago is a really great first step towards a federal NIL solution. There's work to be done on that bill, but I think it's a bipartisan bill and covers a lot of the things that I think are good for both college athletics and for student athletes. And I think it's a great first step. And I know that Charlie Baker at the NCAA has been doing yeoman's work in Washington, D.C., and we've been collaborating with him and really pleased with how that first bill came out. I expect there to be 2 more bills in the next week, and then there'll be some negotiations among those bills. But I think we're in a really good place there as a starting point. I think the bigger and existential threat to college athletics is the employee status of student athletes. And if our student athletes are deemed to be employees, if they are unionized and collectively bargained, we end up in a place where I don't think most of our schools or schools around the country will be able to support our Olympic sports, our women's sports. I think that money dries up, and I think we have work to do there.
We'll do one more now. We'll do James here in the back right, and then we'll invite Merton and Mark Harlan out.
George, just to follow on what you just said, I think a response ago, because it caught a lot of people's attention very quickly. You just said you're not announcing a deal today on purpose because you want the attention to be on football.
Yep.
To be clear, that would imply that the deal is done and codified and just you're waiting until after today.
I think you're reading too much into that.
So then what is the purpose behind not announcing something, which is what you just said?
We want to have the focus on football today. We have an incredibly good football story to tell, and we want that to be the focus today.
All right, we now welcome Merton Hanks and Mark Harlan to join Coach Kliavkoff. If you have questions, please raise your hand, and we'll get right to you. Anyone with questions? Oh, right here. I'm sorry, Kenneth.
Kenneth Berry, Touchdowns and Tangents. In regards to, let's say, the Jimmy Kimmel Bowl, the Mountain West has kind of dominated that the last couple of years. Is there any thought to changing up the seeding or maybe adding an at-large to kind of swing the game back, in the favor of the Pac-12?
Shot at answering that question. The Mountain West, since they're champion in the Mountain West Conference, all congratulations to them in that respect. They've played well in that game, but we're certainly confident in our bowl seeding order to date, and whoever represents the Pac-12 in that game moving forward, I feel very confident we'll put forth an excellent effort and get us back on the winning track.
Other questions?
Jim Ross.
Oh, sorry, Ross over there on the right.
Mark, George was saying about how he was concerned at first by the narrative of the last year in the recruitment, in your recruiting. What have you seen from any impact that this narrative has caused over the last year? And if you would like to engage in the narrative now, we're giving you this opportunity.
I think two things come to mind for me. I think last year when there was a lot of drama while we were here, it was not remarkable. It was somewhat expected, but the kind of season that we had where our coaches and student athletes just tuned it all out. And as George, I thought, explained extremely well, we had one of the greatest seasons that we've seen in our league. I think that was a real sign that all the noise around doesn't matter because the kind of coaches and student athletes we have here. And then as mentioned, our recruiting. Our recruiting really is an all-time high across all our campuses. So if you just look at reality is the narrative doesn't mean much, right? The narrative doesn't mean anything when it comes to our incredible athletes and our incredible, coaches. And so, the athletic director's been working hard with George and his team to get the off-the-field stuff accomplished. In the meantime, I'm really enjoying the success of all our student athletes.
No, we should keep the host on. Keep host the same.
Right here in the third row.
The few of the other power conferences, despite expansion, have opted to stay at playing 8 conference games during the regular season. Has there been any talks in the Pac-12 about moving potentially to 8 or staying at 9 conference games?
We at the conference office work collaboratively with our athletic directors. We have a newly formed scheduling subcommittee of select athletic directors to address this particular issue. And quite frankly, we're in a place where we can really reshape how we move forward as a conference as far as the scheduling piece. For us on the West Coast, going to 8 games, quite frankly, from my personal opinion, is a little more difficult than our friends that are east of the Mississippi. There are just more institutions that are closer to those institutions. You're able to do a few more things. So we'll continue to look at that, whether it's going to 8, staying at 9, whatever we do in that respect, we want to do ultimately what's in the best interest of making sure that our institutions are properly positioned to going in a championship game in the CFP in that respect.
And then if we choose to expand, we'll have to reevaluate, of course.
Other questions? Oh, sorry, James, over the right.
Mark, over the last year, the narrative about the corner schools and their impending departure, depending on who you listen to. You are one of the few athletic directors to come out publicly via social media and shoot down those rumors and speculation. Do you maintain that position that Utah is committed to this conference going forward, not going anywhere, and not going 12?
Yeah, I think our words and actions speak for themselves. We are a proud member of this conference and look forward to its future success.
Come up here in the front row.
Hi, Hank Waddles from GoMightyCard.com. There's recently been a change in one of the university's presidents. I know that you're not going to speak to that, but I was wondering if in general you could talk about what process residents in, giving importance to the presidents, everything that you, what's the process bringing someone up to speed into that group?
Yeah, in normal times, we would distribute to a new president a briefing book, a very substantive book that kind of tells them everything about the conference, and then we schedule time, many hours, where our entire senior staff walks the new president through the conference, what we do and what each division and group does within the conference. I would say just recently, this week, because we have a new president at the University of Oregon, we actually accelerated that process so that he would be ready to participate fully in the board meetings that we had this week and next week.
Others? Go back to James.
Merton, two football-specific ones. Are you pleased with the tiebreaker procedure you came up with last year? Other conferences that have gone without divisions now have similar, though slightly different. Is there looking to modification for one? Two, as you addressed about number of conference games going forward and expansion, how that plays in, there is the possibility that the league could have 11 teams, which might mean 10 conference games in only a couple of years, which would also mean breaking a lot of contracts or changing contracts on relatively short notice. Where do things stand in that conversation and planning process?
Well, let me make sure I heard you right. In respect to the tiebreaker piece, we will have the same tiebreakers as this previous year. It fits, and moving forward, certainly into 24, we're at 10 teams. Actually, tiebreakers actually fit a 10-team conference perfectly in that respect. And as Commissioner noted, any potential expansion, we will review all of our rules and bylaws and adjust accordingly in that respect. And your second question, James, I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch it.
That with the possibility of expansion, there is a possibility of an 11-team league, which might lead to 10 conference games. And the ripple effect of that would lead to breaking of non-conference game contracts only a couple of years from now. What has the conversation and planning process been with league members for that contingency, that possibility?
Well, I'll follow the lead of my commissioner that we'll keep internal deliberations in regard to our scheduling internal at this point. Certainly, we will adjust accordingly in concert with our ADs and scheduling committee to answer those things at the appropriate time.
Richard, over here on the far left.
For Merton, over here, Merton. Merton, do you have an update on officiating and the status of it after the officials that left the conference earlier this summer?
We're excited. We have a wonderful group of officials moving forward. I think this group, to address the elephant in the room, so to speak, we had a number of officials as independent contractors decide to take their opportunities elsewhere, and we took that opportunity, quite frankly, to reposition our great talent. We've had a number of quality officials that we've been looking for opportunities to promote and put them in positions to lead moving forward, and we've been able to do that. So we've been working collaboratively with our athletic director group. We do have a specific committee amongst the athletic directors regarding the officiating piece, so we've been in lockstep on what we need to do there. We're in great shape. We're really looking forward to the season. For us, the season's begun in that respect, so we're excited about it.
We have another question here in the third row.
Tyler Budge, CF Budge. I forgot my intro last time. But seeing a team like Utah come into this conference from the Mountain West, and Mark, I know you just got here in 2018, but seeing a team come like that through the Mountain West, how encouraging is that when you're looking for potential expansion teams, not necessarily just in the Mountain West, but in a Group 5 conference?
It's really exciting when you find a team that can come in the conference and can invest the way Utah invested and have the success that they've had. You know, what a blessing. It's terrific.
And I guess it's kind of a second part to that. If possible, do you have any universities off the top of your head that you could think of that are capable of employing a similar change?
Yes.
Others? We had one over here. Over here on the far left.
Hi, Bud Elliott, Cover 3 Podcast, CBS. This is for Mark. I know federal preemption is the ultimate goal for the NCAA, but failing that on a national level, have there been discussions among the conference members of unifying NIL laws across the states that are of the member institutions?
Well, I certainly can defer to the commissioner. I know that from my point of view, I think having a national standard would be ideal. right? Just in our conference footprint alone, there's some states that are restricted where Utah is not without a state law, and that's not a way to run competition. At the same time, I don't think any kind of national standard would hinder the ability to maximize NIL. So I just think it would be helpful to have that in place. I think there's been progress in that area. At the same time, 2 years in, third year upcoming with NIL, it's been exciting to see so many Pac-12 athletes succeed in this space. Matter of fact, I think it's the kind of cities that we have in this conference, the kind of support we have in this conference. I think it's contributed also to folks wanting to stay in the footprint, right, along with all the great institutions. But I do think a platform on a national standard would certainly help, in many regards.
Probably have time for one more.
Jim, first row.
Oh, here in the first row. Thank you.
Hi, Nikki Edwards, CU Sports Report. Colorado and Deion Sanders' hire has garnered national attention across the country. What kind of lucrative or general opportunities come with that hire that the conference is working on?
Well, I think that's better directed to Rick George, who's in the back of the room, who's the athletic director there. But I think they've seen incredible success in ticket sales, merchandise sales, new sponsors coming in. I think they've been able to elevate the program through that hire and pay back that investment. And I look across our entire league and how all of our teams are investing in football, particularly in the last couple of years, and I was not expecting it to pay back dividends as quickly as it has. We've seen the dividends come back starting last year. We'll see it again this year, but that investment is paying off for all of our schools. Before we go, I want to ask a question. I want to ask Merton, what was it like to play with Deion? What's he like as a player?
And congratulations to Colorado and where's Rick, our athletic director, Rick George, in hiring Deion. Here's I call him a young man because he was my teammate at San Francisco, helped me win a ring with San Francisco in that respect. And being able to watch him go about his craft every day as far as striving for excellence. We were able to visit Colorado recently, sat down with Deion, his staff. You'll meet with Coach Kelly, the defense coordinator, at certain points today. You could see the quality of individuals that he's brought into the program. And basically, I call him a young man. A young man has not failed at anything that he's done. And he's always been the guy. And so people who understand being the guy, there's a pressure that comes with being the guy that stays with you. And he's been able to achieve all along the way, whether it's been as an athlete, as a coach, as a business individual. So I'm excited that he's in the Pac-12. He's going to raise the bar and, quite frankly, bring out the best in all of our coaches because you're competing against a winner on the other side. Let's make no mistake about that. So I'm excited. It's going to be a great season. Looking forward to it.
All right. I'd like to thank the Commissioner, Merton, and Mark Harlan for your time. Thank you very much.